Welcome back to Common Ground, an inside look at Suffolk County. I'm your host, Sheriff Steve Tompkins. Now, on this side of the show, we've got an old buddy, Ned Eames, the Executive Director of Tenacity. Now, I know you've seen their banners all over the inner cities, not just in Boston proper, but outlying areas also. And it's a program wherein they work with kids on athletics and academics built around clearly schoolwork and tennis. And what I found in tennis is that's a sport that really does teach discipline and camaraderie, sportsmanship. And so I'll let Ned pick up the thread there, but they do some great stuff. So Ned, first and foremost, it's so good to see you again, buddy.
It's great to be back.
Haven't seen you in a couple of years, man.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Talk to us about Tenacity. Let's go back to the beginning, the origin of the program. How did it begin? What was the impetus for doing this?
Well, a few of us in the local community felt like there was an opportunity to pull together the resources of the local tennis community and partner those resources up with the city of Boston's resources. It turns out there were about 70 public tennis courts that were largely unused but were in very good shape. And we were able, with Justine Liff, the then Commissioner of Parks, and Mayor Menino, to launch sort of a citywide public-private collaboration to bring academics and tennis to kids in the city. And, you know, none of us can do it all, and we need to think about how we can help in our own natural way. And what better way than for us than to bring tennis and academics to the city's kids.
Why athletics and academics versus just athletics or academics? Why the combination of the two?
Well, I think both are powerful and helpful for young people and all of us. But, you know, as the life motto goes, everything in balance. And it's a lot easier to focus on your reading, on your literacy, on your academics if you've had a good opportunity to exercise. And so we really believe in that combination.
And so how intimately are the families of the kids woven into all that you're doing for the kids?
I would say that family engagement is probably the most important feature or aspect of the service work we do. You know, you hear about schools can't do it alone. It's so true. It's really largely about relationships with the children and their families. So in our school year program, we do 2 home visits each academic year at a minimum with all of our students to create that trust and a relationship with the parents.
And you go, when you say you visit them at home, but then you also visit them at the schools, or no, not at the schools?
Well, we're working with the kids 3 or 4 days a week in the schools, in the program.
Okay.
But in addition to that, we're going into the homes to meet the parents at least twice a year.
So now, is this a year-round program? Because I know a lot of folks are familiar with your summer program. Does that also extend into the school year? Or are those 2 separate programs? You have the summer program and then the academic school year program.
Well, we do serve Boston's children year-round, and that's the important concept. And the 1,000 children that we serve in the school year, we encourage to come into our summer reading and tennis program as well. So they get that 12 months of the year support, exercise, learning, and fun. But there are an additional 5,000 kids in the city that opt to be with us just in the summer, in July and August, doing reading and tennis.
Okay. Now, how many tennis courts are you actually utilizing? You said there were a bunch out there.
We're at about 25 sites across the city each summer, and there are probably an average of about 3 courts at each site.
So now, of that summer day, how much time are the kids actually on the court playing tennis, and then how much is devoted to academics, or is academics woven in the summer?
Academics is woven in. So we have the younger kids, sort of 6 to 10 years old, coming in the morning from 9 till noon, 2.5 hours of fitness activities and tennis, and a required half an hour of supervised reading using the Boston Public Schools reading lists and instructions and so forth.
And then what about the older kids?
Then the older kids, 11 to 16, come from 1 to 4 and have the same sort of academic to fitness combination.
So with all of this running around that the kids are doing, it sounds like you're paying some attention to the obesity issue that a lot of kids are suffering from in this country. Would that be a correct assessment?
Absolutely. Just, giving kids a fun opportunity to run around and to have coaching and so forth, and to learn the power and the fun of exercise and sports, either on a competitive level if they want it, or on a more social, recreational level if that's more comfortable for them. It's so important. When we started, Steve, back in '99, really through about 2003, a lot of institutions, philanthropic institutions in the city, thought that we were sort of the jocks bringing a sport and just tennis. And we were actually working pretty hard on the academic side, and we saw that. But we had to work even harder at the academics to convince the philanthropic community that we were serious about academics.
So that they would then fund the programming?
And then what happened, we worked at that, and then in about 2005, I would say, obesity became as important to local foundations as literacy.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden we had worked so hard to convince people we were good at literacy and teaching that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they started to really care about the exercise that we were providing. So all of a sudden we had both. And that's, I think, when tenacity really started to come into its own and receive the kind of funding that's allowed us to have capacity building plans.
So now talk to me about the capacity building now. Are you in the midst of a growth spurt right now? And if you are, explain that to us. What's going on there?
We are. We're at a point now where we have 5,000 Boston children in the summer reading and tennis program, and 1,000 children served in partnership with the Boston Public Schools during the school year. And we feel like the next step, and our partners feel like the next step, is to focus on the school year offering. We're getting 95% of those school year kids to finish high school. And in a city where we're all really struggling with the graduation rate.
Right.
So what we think we're going to do is double that capacity to over 2,000 school year kids. And we'd also like to up the long-term result to actually post-secondary completion, not just high school graduation. So 1,000 to 2,000 kids and high school graduation to post-secondary success. That's our next chapter that we're trying to implement by 2019.
So before you get to this expansion on your service, how big is the staff that you presently have engaged, and are they all full-time, or do you have what would be analogous to adjunct coaches or teachers involved with the program?
Well, we use all the above. We have about 60 full-time year-round employees that work on the school year program and the summer program. And probably another 100 volunteers in the school year, and probably about 30 or 40 part-time paid people out at the site serving kids. So it's a combination of volunteers, part-time paid, and full-time. And we're also very proudly a host site for AmeriCorps, and have 28 young people doing a year of service focused on academic engagement.
Yeah.
In the summer, so that's the school year, in the summer we hire about 200 seasonal professionals who are teaching reading, fitness, nutrition, and tennis out at the 25 summer sites. So there's a lot of moving parts.
That is a lot of moving parts, and it sounds like, lo, these many years, you guys have figured out a way to bring all of these pieces together that really services. Now, is it just the city of Boston? You in Chelsea, Revere? You throughout Suffolk County? You throughout the Commonwealth?
Well, we actually are focused on Boston.
Okay.
We really feel like we're trying to stay with these kids from elementary school through middle and high school and on to college. It's really, in a sense, like a school. And so we want to stay very focused on where we are right now and put all our energies really into partnering with John McDonough and the Boston Public Schools and Marty Walsh and the new administration, while also continuing to serve 5,000 Boston kids out on the parks in the summer.
Now, don't you do, in the summertime, you do, I believe, is it still called the Champions Cup? You have a big summer program with professionals that come and play tennis as a charitable event, I believe.
Yeah.
Talk to the audience about that.
Well, you may remember Jim Courier, who used to be #1 in the world and a great American tennis player, started his own tour for the guys that had just retired from the ATP Tour. And they travel around the country. It's called Champions Cup. And we partnered with them. We have partnered with them since 2006. And for several years, we would have literally eight legends of tennis coming to our spring gala the night before their tournament started at the Agganis Arena or the Garden. And then they would also come out and do a pro-am with us on the tennis courts. And that was a tremendous opportunity to build exposure and awareness for what we're doing with kids. And so that partnership continues. But it's been a real experience to have the likes of Pete Sampras, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, hold on to your hat, you know, in your ballroom at a gala, out on the court with your donors. It's been an honor and an adventure.
So talk to me about two things. One, how the city of Boston really relishes having these professionals here, and then talk to me about the kids and the families being able to interact, you know, with the Sampras or McEnroe. So let's start with the city. How's the city work with you to make this a reality?
Well, the city's been great, and we've had a number of get-togethers that with these stars of tennis and the city, so that it really benefits the schools and everybody gets to know these folks. And the players coming in, these legends, they love Boston. Boston's a really unique, historic, amazing place. It's a city that used to have one of the premier pro tennis tournaments out at the Longwood Cricket Club. So a lot of these players have spent a lot of time in Boston over the years and love coming back. In terms of getting the kids and the families involved, it's been unbelievable. The funniest thing was we had an event at Cheers with these players. Tom Kershaw hosted us over there, and we did a video of one of our kids from Dorchester. And he was comparing his life in this video and trying to Bjorn Borg, and actually trying to convince everybody that he actually was Bjorn Borg. And we played this video and to Bjorn Borg and all these other players, and they just loved it. And out on the courts, at the matches, the players at this point in their lives understand the importance of reaching out and connecting. So it's been great.
Now, you are still a tennis player.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the sport of a lifetime.
And
You're not allowed to give up. That's it's a great asset.
Yeah.
But then you can never quit.
Yeah. No.
You're in. You're locked in.
Well, no. Listen, man. That's the reason I ask is because I've seen some folks in their 60s, 70s. I've seen some folks in their 80s still out there,
Oh, yeah.
swinging a racket and doing it.